In 1937, the publication Discovery ran an article by Captain William Hitchens entitled African Mystery Beasts. In a section on colossal lizards, it reported, "Other accounts speak of a gigantic lizard with a neck like a giraffe, legs like an elephant's, a small snake-like head, and a tail 30 feet long. Several white hunters have asserted that they have tracked what must be such beasts, and the Smithsonian Institution some years ago sent an expedition to locate the animal, but the project, unfortunately, met with disaster and never arrived in the field of search." A year later, in 1938, Dr. Leo von Boxberger, who was colonial magistrate with considerable African experience, conducted an expedition into the interior of Cameroon. He also picked up reports of a large unidentified animal living in the waters. Most of his notes on this subject were lost when his expedition was attacked by members of the Pangwe tribe in Spanish Guinea. However, on the subject of the equatorial monsters, he wrote, "My own contribution to the subject is unfortunately very small. At the mouth of the Mbam, in Sanaga in central Cameroons, and on the Ntem in southern Cameroons, I collected a variety of data from the natives about the mysterious water beast. All I can report is the name Mbokale Muembe, given to the animal in southern Cameroons. The belief in a gigantic water animal, described as a reptile with a long, thin neck, exists among the natives in the southern Cameroons, wherever they form part of the Congo basin, and also to the west of this area, doubtless where the great rivers are broad and deep and are flanked by virgin forest." 10 years later, in 1948, A.S. Airy was swimming at Lake Borombi Umbo near Kumba, northern Cameroon, while keeping some visiting British soldiers company. Without warning, the water at the center of the lake began to stir, as if being disturbed from below. As everyone hastily exited the water, two strange, long-necked creatures broke the surface. The first animal to appear had a long neck, about 12 to 15 feet, ending in a small, slender head that sported a spike of some kind at the top. A second, slightly smaller, long-necked animal also made an appearance, but without a spike or horn. The locals later claimed that the hornless animal was a female. As Airy recalled, some of the soldiers fled the scene, but others stayed and kept the two strange animals under observation. The animals were again typical of Mokele Mbembe in appearance, but on this occasion, snake-like scales were observed on the monsters. This matches more recent reports of the larger, mature animals possessing toughened skin like a caiman. The spike on the top of the head is also suggestive of sexual dimorphism. Extinct sauropodeans such as the Diplodocus are now known to have had dermal spikes up to 9 inches in length. The locals call these animals Jaganini, meaning giant diver, as reported by Trader Horn in his book in 1927. The locals further stated that the animals rarely left the water and were seen infrequently, which again ties in favorably with Mokele Mbembe. Very little was heard of Mokele Mbembe until 1976, when herpetologist James Powell from Texas traveled to Gabon to study rainforest crocodiles. Powell picked up stories from the Fang people about an enormous river monster called Nyamala, and a local witch doctor named Michael Obang picked out a picture of the Diplodocus from a book on dinosaurs as being a dead ringer for the Nyamala, which he saw exit a jungle pool in 1946. Powell later conveyed this information to Dr. Roy P. Mackle, a biologist from the University of Chicago and vice president of the International Society of Cryptozoology. In 1980, Mackle and Powell traveled to the People's Republic of the Congo to investigate Mokele Mbembe activity, which Mackle believed would be centered in the Likawala region, a huge area of seasonally inundated swamps that was left blank on most maps. In the northern town of Mfondo, situated on the Ubangi River, Mackle and Powell met with the Reverend Eugene Thomas from Ohio, a missionary who had served in the Congo since 1955. Thomas had heard many stories about Mokele Mbembe, and sent out for first-hand eyewitnesses who had seen the monster. At first, Mackle was reluctant to believe that he was on the trail of a living dinosaur, yet each witness was absolutely emphatic that the illustrations of the Apatosaurus and Diplodocus in Mackle's book on dinosaurs were dead ringers for the Mokele-Mbembe. All eyewitnesses agreed that Mokele-Mbembes live in the rivers, streams, and swampy lakes, and that they are rare and dangerous. Time ran out for Mackle and Powell, and they headed back to the U.S., tantalized by the reports. Mackle returned to the Congo in 1981 with a larger team, and this time headed south on the Likwala-Ourbis River. He attempted to reach the remote Lake Tele, a small, shallow body of water situated in the heart of the swamp, where at least one Mokele-Mbembe was reportedly speared to death by the Bagombe pygmies in 1960. Unfortunately, the narrow water channels that led to the lake from the unexplored Bai River were jammed with fallen trees, making passage impossible with heavy dugout canoes. One flood of excitement occurred when the expedition was rounding a river bend just south of the town of Ipena. A large creature had abruptly submerged near the far bank, producing an 18-inch high wave that buffeted Mackle's canoe. Crocodiles do not leave such a wake, and hippos that do are not present in the area, for they have all been chased away by Mokele-Mbembes, according to the pygmies. Scottish explorer Bill Gibbons conducted his first expedition to the Congo from November 1985 to May 1986. Although the expedition was delayed in Brazzaville for several weeks by the corrupt, slow-motion bureaucratic system, American missionary Pastor Thomas graciously used his contacts in the various government departments to help them get underway. They eventually reached Lake Tele after a challenging 5-day slog through the forest, where they observed gorillas, chimpanzees, large pythons, crocodiles, and turtles, but no large monster. They also found that the fear of Mokele-Mbembe was considerable among the rural Congolese, which made information gathering very difficult at times. Their guides hunted daily and on one occasion shot a monkey that they were unable to identify. The remains, the skin and head, were preserved in formaldehyde and later presented to the British Museum of Natural History in London, England. The monkey was later classified as a new subspecies of crestless Mangabey monkey. Gibbons returned to the Congo in November 1992 to deliver emergency medical supplies to a missionary clinic in Mfondo run by Jean and Sandy Thomas. On this occasion, Gibbons and his team headed north on the unexplored Bai River and pushed its way northwest through dense swamps, where they found 2 small lakes that were not even on the maps. Once again, the native guides were fearful of remaining in the area, and the exploration of the swamps was cut short. Although many of the inhabitants of the Likwala region know exactly where a specimen of Mokele-Mbembe can be readily observed and filmed, they believe that to speak openly of the animals to white outsiders means death. It was nothing more than fear and superstition that was stopping Gibbons from making a major discovery.